Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we are taking a look at ESL Domain II.pdf. It's an interesting document, for sure. A little different kind of format.
Yeah, it's a collection of resources.
It is. It's a collection of resources all kind of put together in this kind of strange format.
Like figures, tables, just little snippets of information.
It's like a puzzle.
That is.
And we're here to kind of like put the puzzle together and figure out what exactly is going on here and pull out some of the interesting and relevant information for you. So we're going to jump right in. And I guess kind of the heart of this document is really focused on teaching English as a second language. And one of the first things that kind of jumped out at us was this table, table 26, which outlines different levels of reading and writing proficiency for ESL students. It goes from beginner to advanced high.
Yeah, and they break down each of these levels.
They do.
Even further.
They do.
With these little snippets of information.
These little objectives or something.
Yeah, they sound like objectives. So for instance, for like the beginning level, it says students reading for or. For or. Yeah, and then for like advanced high students writing of for 2008. What could that mean?
Of for 2008.
Yeah.
So what, like when you're looking at that as someone who knows about teaching ESL, what do you see there?
Well, like reading for or, that probably relates to decoding skills.
Oh.
Just helping those beginning ESL students recognize those high-frequency conjunction words they'll see all the time.
Right. Like the very...
It is crucial for building a foundation.
The building blocks.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, for 2008, that one's a little more...
That's a little trickier.
Cryptic, right.
It is.
Like, could of for 2008 possibly mean?
Well, it seems like it would have to be something more complex, obviously, because it's
advanced
high.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like writing an analytical essay.
Okay.
Or a research paper where they need to use critical thinking skills and historical context.
Oh. Maybe they're writing about a specific year or an event. That's right.
Okay. All right. So we're seeing how it breaks down.
Yes.
Like they're not just throwing advanced concepts at beginners.
Exactly.
It's about building those skills.
It is.
Gradually.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So we're also seeing like different ways that teachers are being encouraged to support ESL students in the classroom. And note number 5 here really focuses on the idea of allowing sufficient wait time for students to process information and respond.
Yeah.
Especially in oral activities.
Yeah, and that is so crucial because, ESL students, they're processing this no language, and they need time to formulate their response.
Right. It's not their native language.
It's not.
And also, like, imagine if you're in a classroom and you're still learning the language, you probably are very hesitant to just, like, jump in.
Absolutely.
And talk.
There's that effective filter that we need to be cognizant of as teachers.
Yeah, and so giving them that time really helps build their confidence, too.
It does, because it shows respect for their thinking.
It really validates.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also, like, all these creative response signals that they suggest teachers use.
Oh, yeah, like writing on whiteboard.
Writing on whiteboards.
Oh.
Using their fingers.
Like how many fingers represent how much you agree.
Yeah, or like choosing a corner of the room.
Yes.
Based on like if you agree or disagree.
Right.
But I feel like we also have to be careful not to go too far with that because we don't want to discourage them from actually speaking.
Absolutely. We want to balance it with opportunities for spontaneous oral practice.
Right.
So things like think, pair, share.
Yeah, think, pair, share is a great one.
Where they can process individually.
Right.
Then they have that little boost of confidence from talking to a peer.
Yeah.
And then they can share with the class.
Yeah, it's like a good kind of training wheels approach.
It is.
Yeah. That actually leads perfectly into the next point that we wanted to talk about, which is this idea of structured conversations.
Yes.
Which it says in number 6 are super valuable. Oh, they are. In ESL classrooms.
They help students practice those new language structures and vocabulary in a really meaningful way.
Okay, so give me an example. Like how would you actually use structured conversation?
Well, you could provide sentence stems or word banks.
So it's not like you're just throwing them in to the deep end.
You're giving them support.
Okay.
You're giving them the tools.
Yeah.
They need to build their sentences and express their ideas.
And that's especially helpful, I imagine, if you're still feeling a little
hesitant.
Yeah.
Speak up.
Right. Like a sentence stem could be like, I agree with blank because blank.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or I disagree with blank because blank.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Are there downsides to using structured conversation too much, though?
That's a great question.
Mm.
I mean, while those structured conversations
Yeah.
are super beneficial, we do need to make sure that students aren't becoming overly reliant on them, because the goal is to help them eventually communicate
Yeah. Naturally.
spontaneously.
Yeah. So it's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. This kind of brings us to our next point, which is this idea in note number 7 that listening, speaking, reading, and writing are all interconnected.
They are.
It's not like they're just isolated skills.
They work together.
They do.
They feed each other.
It's like we learn to speak by listening.
Yes.
We improve our writing by reading.
Yeah.
It's all like this beautiful web
Yes.
of language.
It's a beautiful tapestry.
A tapestry. I love that. And they actually cite a study here by Saunders, Goldenberg, and Marcelletti that found that academic conversations, when they're combined with reading and writing activities, are especially beneficial for ESL students.
Because they're seeing that synergy
Yeah.
between the skills.
So it's not just about having like reading time, writing time, conversation time.
Right.
It's about weaving it all together.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Now I'm really curious about all these figures and tables
Me too.
that are sprinkled throughout this
Yeah.
document.
Like timeline of court cases.
Yeah, timeline of course.
Case laws model to levels of culture.
What is going on there?
I don't know, but I'm ready to find out.
Me too. Let's take a little break and then we'll come back
Sounds great.
and dig into those.
Okay. Welcome back. We're picking up right where we left off with those figures and tables in ESL Domain II.pdf.
Yeah, I'm really curious about Figure 1, timeline of court cases, and Figure 3, Hall's model to levels of culture. This seemed like a bit of a departure from what we've seen so far.
Right. They provide some context and background information.
Okay.
That's relevant to ESL education. So the timeline of court cases, it likely highlights some key legal decisions
All right.
that have shaped language rights and educational policies for English language learners.
This is like giving us a historical
Yeah.
and legal foundation.
Yeah, it helps us understand.
Yeah. You know how we got to where we are today?
Yeah, because you can't just look at the present.
Exactly.
You have to see like how those policies evolved over time.
Right. And it shows
Yeah.
the ongoing need to advocate
Right.
for equitable opportunities for English learners.
Absolutely. Okay, that's great. And then what about Hall's model to levels of culture?
Okay, so Hall's model that likely explores anthropologist Edward T. Hall's model
Okay.
for understanding cultural differences.
And he kind of delves into like different layers of culture, right?
Yes, from those surface level customs
Okay.
to the deep-seated value
Yeah.
and beliefs.
How does that connect to ESL education, though?
Well, it's all about cultural sensitivity
Okay.
and awareness.
Yeah.
Because ESL teachers,
Right.
they're not just teaching language, they're
Right.
bridging cultures.
Okay.
So understanding Hall's model can help educators be more attuned.
So it's like they're not just teaching grammar.
No.
They're teaching like how to navigate
Yes, sir.
different cultural situations.
Yes. It's about communication styles,
Okay.
nonverbal cues,
Okay.
even learning preferences.
Oh, interesting. So like different cultures might have different
Yes.
ways of learning.
Like some cultures value direct communication,
Okay.
while others are more indirect.
Oh, so like if you have a student who's coming from a culture that's more indirect, you might misinterpret
You could.
their silence or their hesitation as like not understanding.
Right. It could be a sign of respect
Okay.
in their culture.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we're seeing how this document, even though it's kind of fragmented in a way,
Yeah.
it really is offering like a holistic perspective
It is.
on ESL education.
Yes.
It's not just about the nuts and bolts
No.
of grammar and vocabulary.
It's the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about like the legal, the cultural, the pedagogical foundations.
It's like we've been given this blueprint,
yeah.
and each piece,
Each piece.
whether it's a table, a note, or a figure,
Yeah.
it's guiding us towards...
a deeper understanding.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to keep digging into these figures and tables.
Me too.
What about Figure 2? State-approved models for students. What do you think that's all about?
Well, that likely outlines
Okay.
different approaches to ESL instruction,
Okay.
and each model has its own philosophy and methodology.
Like what kind of models are we talking about?
Well, we might see models like ESL pullout, where students are pulled out of their regular classroom
Okay.
for specialized language instruction, or sheltered instruction,
Sure.
where content is adapted to make it more accessible.
So it's like choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Okay.
Depends on the student's needs
Yeah.
and the school's resources.
Okay. And how do we know, like, how well these models are working or how well the students are progressing? Are there any tables that address that?
Yes. Table 13. Formal and informal assessments.
Okay.
That outlines different ways to assess
Okay.
ESL students' progress, from
Yeah.
standardized tests to portfolio reviews.
So it's about having a variety
Yes.
of tools
A toolbox.
to really get a sense of,
The whole picture.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't assess a painter
Right.
based on just one brushstroke.
Exactly.
You have to look at the
The
whole.
whole body of work.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anything else jumping out at you?
Let's see. Figure 6 of BICS and CLLP caught my eye.
BICS and CLLP, what are those?
Okay, so BICS stands for Basic Interpersonal Communication Skills.
Okay.
That's the language we use in everyday social situations.
Okay.
And then CLLP stands for Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency.
Okay.
And that is the more complex language needed.
For school.
Yes, for academic success.
Okay, so like BICS is ordering a coffee.
Yeah,
CLLP is writing a research paper.
exactly.
Okay, got it. So ESL teachers need to be aware of those two
They do,
different levels.
because developing CLLP takes time,
Okay.
and it needs targeted instruction.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
Right, okay. And I see. Table 20. Example of common syntax errors. That seems like it would be really helpful for teachers.
Oh, it is. Because if they're aware of those common errors,
Right.
then they can provide specific feedback to their students.
And it's not just about correcting the errors. It's about understanding why those errors are happening
Exactly.
and using that to inform your teaching.
Yes.
Okay, wow, this document is really packed with information.
It's a treasure trove.
It is. It's amazing how these, like, seemingly random pieces are all fitting together
They are.
to form this coherent picture of what effective ESL teaching is all about.
It's reminding us that ESL instruction
Yeah,
is this multifaceted endeavor.
right.
It needs attention to detail
Yeah,
and a broad understanding of how language learning works.
absolutely.
All right.
Is there anything else that we should make sure to highlight before we wrap up?
Let's see. Table 3, stages of language acquisition. That's a big one.
Okay, what's that about?
It breaks down the predictable stages that learners go through
Okay.
from pre-production, where they may be silent.
Oh, right. Like they're absorbing?
Yes, they're like little sponges,
Yeah.
all the way to intermediate fluency.
Okay.
And this table can help teachers set realistic expectations
Okay.
and adjust their instruction.
So you're not expecting a pre-production student to
Right.
be giving a presentation.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. And it's important to remember that language learning isn't linear.
It's not.
Right. It's not just like you go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3.
There are ups and downs,
There are.
plateaus.
Yeah. And you have to meet the students
Yeah.
where they are.
Yes.
Okay. And then what about this figure 4, factors affecting second language acquisition?
Oh, that's a fascinating one. That highlights how individual learner characteristics
Okay.
can influence the process.
Mm.
So things like motivation,
Okay.
personality learning styles.
Oh, so it's not just about like the teaching methods.
It's not.
It's also about the individual.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Each student brings their own unique background
Yeah.
and experiences.
Okay, cool. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From those cryptic phrases to legal precedents to cultural nuances and different teaching approaches.
This document is really giving us a 360-degree view.
It is. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
But I think this is a good place to pause.
Okay.
Let all this information sink in.
Yes.
And we'll come back
That's great.
and wrap up
Okay.
our exploration of ESLDomain.pdf.
I'm ready. Welcome back to our final part of this deep dive into ESLDomain.pdf.
It's been quite a journey. It really has.
Yeah, going from like decoding those cryptic little phrases to exploring legal landmarks and cultural nuances, and
It's amazing how much information is packed in here.
it is.
And it all kind of comes together to give us this really comprehensive view
It does.
of effective ESL teaching.
Like, it's not just grammar drills.
Right, yeah.
It's about creating an environment
Yeah.
where students can really develop all 4 language skills
Yeah.
in this holistic way.
The listening, the speaking, the reading, the writing.
Right.
It's all connected.
It is. It's that interconnected nature of
Yeah.
language learning.
So as we wrap up this exploration, what for you stands out as like the most valuable insight from this document?
I think it's that emphasis on student-centered learning
Okay.
really resonated with me throughout the document.
Yeah.
We see this focus on providing support,
Yeah.
fostering engagement,
Yeah.
and recognizing the unique needs of each learner.
It's about creating that safe space
It is.
for them to explore and take risks
And grow.
and grow. Yeah, absolutely.
Like that saying.
Yeah.
Students don't care how much you know
Yeah.
until they know how much you care.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there who might be educators, who might be language enthusiasts, maybe they're just curious about ESL. What's the one key takeaway you would want them to remember from this deep dive?
Language learning is a process, not a product.
Oh, I like that.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
And our role as educators, as supporters,
Yeah.
is to guide and encourage them along the way.
It's about celebrating those small victories.
It is. Every step forward,
Yeah.
no matter how small, is a testament to the learner's dedication.
Absolutely. So as we conclude this deep dive into esldomainy.pdf, we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question. Imagine you were tasked with designing a curriculum for ESL students. What elements from this document would you prioritize and why?
Well, I think for me, it would be about finding that balance
Okay.
between structured support
Yeah.
and opportunities for authentic communication,
Right.
recognizing those stages of language acquisition,
Yeah.
and celebrating the cultural diversity
Absolutely.
that enriches that learning environment.
It's about creating a learning experience that empowers them to find their voice, to embrace their cultural heritage,
Yes.
and to really navigate the world confidently through the lens of language.
Through the lens of language.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into esldomainy.pdf. We hope this sparked your curiosity and inspired you to keep learning and growing.
Keep exploring.
Yeah, absolutely. Until next time.